We greet you from downtown Los Angeles, Dodger Stadium, the site for Cubs baseball tonight on WGN Sports. The Cubs trying to snap a 3-game losing streak and the Dodgers 4-game winning streak. Great to have you with us, Jim DeShays and Len Casper with you. We knew it would be a tough week for an offense that had been sizzling hot, and the Cubs bats have been cooled off a bit.
Yeah, it's like the Cub hitters were pledging a fraternity, and their hazing ritual was to have to face all these former Cy Young Award winners. And as you would expect, the Cubs did not score a lot of runs, but check out this gauntlet they had to navigate. Corey Kluber, the 2014 AL Cy Young Award winner. Jake Peavy, his best days are behind him, but he was really good in his start against the Cubs on Wednesday. And then these last two nights, they struck out 26 times combined against Madison Bumgarner, the 2014 World Series MVP, and Clayton Kershaw, last year's League MVP and Cy Young Award winner.
Well, it will be Matt Latos tonight. More on him after the break. John Lester, the Cubs opening day starter, will get the ball tonight. Jake Arrieta tomorrow, so you have to feel good about the Cubs' chances here to finish up this series. Cubs and Dodgers coming up in moments.
He's on his way, he's going to Hollywood, he's busting into Hollywood.
In L.A., and the Cubs trying to heat up their bats once again, scoring just 4 times over the last 3 games here out west, 1-3 so far on this road trip. And let's hear from the manager, Joe Madden, on the bats, giving the starting pitchers a little more support.
Your top 2 guys going over the next 2 days. You really want to, be able to support them offensively too. But of course you want to win those games. Of course you do. But I don't really, like I told you, I just think about today. And so let's just get John out there with a good game, and then we'll move it on until tomorrow. But like you said, I thought Hammer's starting to throw the ball like he had earlier in the season. The sharpness is coming back on all of his pitches. The other day, Kyle didn't pitch badly at all. And Danny gave up one bad pitch to Bird. And so overall, it's not been that bad. We've just seen a lot of good pitching. We scored, 2 runs, and then 2 runs, and then 1 run, then 1 run. That's what makes it difficult.
So when we come back, we'll have the lineups, the first pitch, and all the action. Cubs and Dodgers from Los Angeles. Stay tuned. this bud's for you. Honda. Great deals are happening at the Honda Summer Clearance Event. Now at your Honda dealer. Napa, home of Napa know-how. Ford, America's best-selling brand. Inviting you to go further in our fuel-efficient vehicles. Check out our entire lineup at your Ford store or at localfordstores.com. Subway, make a smart play for savory subs this season. Score more flavor at Subway restaurants. Subway, eat fresh. And by Southwest Airlines. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. Back here at Dodger Stadium, Cubs baseball in sparkling high definition on WGN TV. Proudly brought to you by Xfinity, your home for the most live sports. So it was Clayton Kershaw over Jason Hamill last night in Game 1. 4-1 the final. The Cubs were held to just 3 hits. They've been striking out a bunch lately, but again, you're facing guys like Bumgarner, Kershaw, and Kluber. Saw Chris Sale not too long ago. It is not easy sledding, is it?
No, it's a grind, and it's tough, and that's the one thing that if you're John Maley and Joe Madden and some of the veteran guys, you remind the younger players, hey, turn the page, fellas. Don't let these tough games put you into a funk, because that's where it gets really dangerous if you run into some really good pitching and everybody just goes into a downward spiral. You just have to realize some nights you're overmatched. You scratch and fight and claw, and if it doesn't work out, you come out tomorrow with a fresh outlook and try to do damage against a guy you feel like you got a better chance against. Not to say that Matt Latos isn't a good one. He's going for the Dodgers here tonight. He's very capable, but he's not Bumgarner and he's not Kershaw.
So the big right-hander taking his warm-up tosses. And let's get the Cubs starting lineup. Brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. Dexter Fowler in the leadoff spot. Kyle Schwarber plays left. Chris Coughlin back in there. He was spared a couple of starts against Bumgarner and Kershaw. Anthony Rizzo homered last night off Kershaw. Chris Bryant is at third. He had 4 at-bats, 4 strikeouts, so he's looking for a bounce back. Montero, the catcher. Russell, we mentioned, is going to move up a couple of spots. This time he's ahead of John Lester with Tommy La Stella batting ninth.
Dodgers in the field this evening. Set up thusly. Carl Crawford, Kike Hernandez, Scott Van Slyke, left, center, right. Turner and Rollins on the left side of the infield. Chase Utley with the lefty on the mound for the Cubs gets the night off, so it's the youngster Jose Peraza at second. Adrian Gonzalez, Gold Glove winner at first. A.J. Ellis, the veteran, is behind the plate. And Matt with 1T, Latos, pitches for the Dodgers here tonight. Big guy, 6'6", 245. It's been a tough goal for him, 4.9 with a 4.81. He's been a good, solid major league pitcher in his career. He dealt with some injuries earlier this season. But when on the top of his game, he can be tough. It's just been a tough go for him this year with that ERA approaching 5.
Chad Fairchild, yeah, it's Fairchild. Home plate. Pat Hoberg is at first. Jim Joyce, the crew chief, at second. Greg Gibson is at third.
Latos,
the Fairchild bit, John Lovitz.
I was going to say that's the Lovitz guy.
Yeah. Morgan Fairchild. Right. He's singing the stretch on the next homestand.
Is he really?
Yeah. Maybe we'll have him do that bit.
Yeah, and the theatrical guy, the overactor. I like that guy too.
Acting.
Yeah, that guy.
So here is Matt Latos with 1T. Actually 2 if you include Matt. 4 or 3, however many there are. Yeah.
Latos, 4-pitch mix, fastball, slider, curveball, change. He uses his height to his advantage. You'll see him work on top and drive that ball down around the knees.
That ball driven out into deep right center, and it is down as Van Slyke couldn't get it. Fowler's got a double. Scott Van Slyke didn't get a very good read on that ball. The sun's still a factor out there, and he almost caught it.
Left fielder number 12, Kyle Schwarber.
That fastball elevated right out over the middle of the plate for Fowler, and he did what you're supposed to do with a pitch like that, hit it hard. It doesn't always find safe haven out there, but that one did, and he's got a leadoff double.
So good start. Here's a rookie, Kyle Schwarber. We've got a lot of small sample sizes for Kyle at the big league level, and also some small or short stints at different minor league levels. And when he got here, I basically referenced it everywhere he's been. He's hit 300. His OPS by month in the big leagues: 6 games in June, 982. 15 games in July, 900. 23 games in August, 928. You just get the feeling that he can hit.
Yeah. He's got that line drive in his DNA. He's been good with runners in scoring position. He has not been piling up the base hits lately. He's in a little bit of a funk. But his last 4 hits have all been home runs. Latos now with his 4th big league club. He was drafted by the Padres in 06 in the 11th round. 2-3 years there, traded to Cincinnati, 3 years with the Reds, on to Miami, and now a Dodger.
He's had some injury problems. Left knee inflammation earlier this year with Miami. It is a surgically repaired knee that knocked him out of commission last year with the Reds. First 2.5 months. Elbow issues as well. In his final season with Cincy before he got dealt to the Marlins. Swing and a miss for strike 3. Out number 1.
A big slow overhand curve, maybe even a changeup here from Latos. Yeah, I think it's kind of a changeup, like almost like a palm ball. Schwarber caught way out in front. 3 times a 14-game winner, Latos. First full year in the big leagues with San Diego in 2010. He was 14-10 with a 292.
Chris Coghlan, first start in 3 days. And he takes a strike.
That's the danger to it. Not so much from the hitter's point of view, but just from us, from the fans, and from the broadcasters watching these recent games. You think, well, you know, Bumgarner and Kershaw. So now you think, well, Latos. We should be able to get to Latos. His numbers aren't particularly good. Like I said earlier, he's certainly capable. I think some of his struggles this year due to the injuries with the legs, didn't have the power, wasn't throwing as hard as he normally does. So that'd be one thing to keep an eye on here tonight. If his velocity is good, that other stuff is going to play up.
Knocked down by A.J. Ellis. Yeah, so the Dodgers had some off days in the schedule. Latos taken out of the rotation temporarily. Was available in the bullpen. Did not pitch on this last road trip. And actually went back to Arizona through a simulated game on Monday just to stay fresh. So let's see if the Cubs can jump on him here early.
This is start number 4 for Latos with the Dodgers. His first one against the Angels was a good one. He got a no decision, allowed 1 run on 4 hits in 6 innings. The next 2 times out, did make it through 5.
Bounce foul past Brandon Hyde. Cubs are 73-54. This is their 4th try at surpassing last year's win total of 73 games. Dodgers 71-56. Added a half game to their lead with the Giants' loss earlier in San Francisco, 6-0 to the Cardinals. 2-2 on Coughlin. Here it is. Swing and a miss. Back-to-back Ks for Latos. And now he'll face a guy he's very familiar with. Another South Florida native, Anthony Rizzo.
Coughlin, like Schwarber, fooled by an off-speed pitch. Cubs have lost 3 in a row. They have not lost 4 in a row since late June.
Cubs got 1 run last night, and it was an Anthony Rizzo home run off Clayton Kershaw.
It was a venti.
Yeah, just to the right of straightaway center, over 440 feet.
I believe I read somewhere that it was tied for the longest home run that Clayton Kershaw had ever allowed.
Yeah, there was certainly nothing cheap about it.
Ballpark doesn't yield many cheap ones. 3-2 fastball.
Other than that, Kershaw pretty much did what he wanted. 8 innings, 3 hits, 1 run. He walked 1, struck out 14, one off his career high. Rizzo now down in the count, 1-2. Seventh major league season for Matt Latos. Looking for his first win as a Dodger. Swing and a miss. So he gives up the leadoff 2-bagger to Fowler and then strikes out Schwarber, Coughlin, and Rizzo. Dodgers coming up. Home runs. They score a lot of their runs via the homer. Rollins, the shortstop. Kike Hernandez moves up in the order. He'll hit second with Chase Utley out against the lefty tonight. Adrian Gonzalez at first. Justin Turner will clean up. He plays third. Van Slyke plays right. Carl Crawford, the active triples leader, is in left. Ellis, the veteran backup catcher's in there. Jose Peraza, rookie second baseman, and Latos, the pitcher.
Cubs defensively, Kyle Schwarber back out there in left. Fowler's in center. Chris Coughlin in right. Third to first, Brian Russell, La Stella Rizzo. Miguel Montero behind the plate tonight. John Lester, 8-9, 3.44 ERA on the mound, making his third career start against the Dodgers. Earlier this year, back at Wrigley, went 4 innings, allowed 4 runs. He's pitched once in this ballpark. That was as a Red Sox in 2013.
His first pitch on Jimmy Rollins is a strike. Lester, 31 years old, 6'4", 240. Rollins, a switch hitter, batting right-handed last night. Took his 10,000th career plate appearance. And he sends a high fly ball out into deep left center. Fowler is back on it, and he makes a grab right up against the padding for a long first out.
Ball carried better than I thought when he first hit it. I thought he hit it pretty good, but I thought it would be easy for Fowler. I didn't think he'd have to track it as far as he did. But all's well that ends well. This ball stays in the ballpark, and Lester has a quick first out.
Hernandez is center fielder, low ball one. As we showed you the lineup, a graphic on just how hot he has been as of late, and he's hitting .420 against lefties. That leads all major league hitters with at least 50 at bats versus lefties.
Yeah, .420 average with a .474 on base percentage against southpaws. It's like Rogers Hornsby or something.
Ball hit hard and foul. He hit it past Ron Renneke, who is the Dodgers' new third base coach, fired this year, earlier as the Milwaukee Brewers manager. And he has taken over that position. Lorenzo Bundy's still with the Dodger club. He's their outfield coach.
Interesting move by Renneke. I guess he was fired so early in the year, but a lot of times, you know, manager gets fired when he's still under contract. Normally those guys say, you know what, I'm just going to take the year off, maybe even a couple of years, enjoy myself. I'm getting paid, catch a little fish, play a little golf. Ron Renneke loves being at the ballpark.
Swing and a miss for strike three.
Can you think of another big league manager who was fired in season and took another job with another organization, not managing, you know, the same year? No, I can't.
Ron Renneke. Oh, another. Okay, no. Here's Adrian Gonzalez. Five of his home runs came in the first 3 games this season. That was a major league record according to Elias.
John making his 26 starts. 17 of those have been at Wrigley. He has more home starts than any pitcher in baseball. This is just his 9th road start.
On the ground right to Chris Bryant. And that's a 1-2-3 start for the Cubs. Big left-hander. 0-0 after 1.
WGNTV.com right now. Click on the WGN Sports Game Zone banner to connect to all the up-to-the-minute stats and information while you watch from home. Game Zone is sponsored by The Great Escape. Pools, patio furniture, hot tubs, and more. Everything you need to have more fun at home this summer. Better hurry.
Second inning, Bryant, Montero, and Russell against Matt Latos. Six righty. And a strike. Bryant for the Golden Sombrero for the second time in his career. 0 for 4 strikeouts in the ball game last night. That snapped a 7-game hitting streak. So hopefully just a blip on the radar. Breaks his bat this time, and he's got a base hit.
Perhaps the start of a new streak.
Catcher, number 47, Miguel Montero.
Again, Montero catching Lester for the third time as a starter. A couple of times when Ross was on the concussion DL in July. David now on the family medical emergency list. One hit on the road trip for Montero. That was a home run in San Francisco. Called strike.
Four hits, all singles for Montero in his career against Latos in 20 at-bats.
Latos was a draft and follow pick. I don't believe they have that anymore, do they?
They do not.
No. 11th round of the 06 draft. He had originally committed to go to the University of Oklahoma, but instead went to Broward Community College. And that would have been the only way you can sign a draft and follow, right? Go to community college.
Yeah, and you retain their rights up until some point prior to the next year's draft. Now, if you don't sign that guy by some date, I think it's in August, you no longer hold his rights. Which is what happened to the Dodgers this year with, I think, their number 2 pick. They didn't get him signed, and their number 1 pick they signed, but needed Tommy John surgery. He's out for at least a year.
1-2 the count on Montero.
Latos showing good command of his off-speed pitches here early, and that's important for him against the left-handed hitters. Lefties have done damage against him this year, hitting .290. But if he has command of that curveball and changeup, it's going to be a tougher challenge. Looks to me like he's tried to shorten his stride. He's always had a relatively short stride for such a tall guy, but it looks to me like he's trying to shorten it even a little more, maybe to emphasize getting on top and making sure he creates that angle with the ball going on a downward plane through the hitting zone.
Bryant runs and Montero fouls right at the plate. Still 1-2. And Jimmy Rollins wants to talk it over with A.J. Ellis. Adrian Gonzalez will join the meeting on the mound. It looked like that meeting had nothing to do with the pitcher. It was more Rollins.
I think Rollins he wants to make sure he knows what their signs are. Maybe he's having a hard time seeing him too. Middle infielders like to be able to see what the catcher's doing, so he knows what pitch is coming.
Bryant not going this time, and Montero off balance swing, and he stays alive as that ball gets out of play.
Given the pitch that they call for, the middle infielders might change up their coverage at second base if Bryant's on the move. I would doubt it. I would think Rollins would have the bag, and Bronson would stay home regardless of the pitch.
Ball actually hit the dirt. And Ellis was up and ready, and Bryant thought about it. See Miguel wearing number 47. His number in Arizona was 26. That was not available with the Cubs. Billy Williams wore 26, and it is retired. So he picked 47. Bryant runs, and that ball bounced to Gonzalez, and he'll step on first. Runner at second, one out. Miguel's dad was born in 1947. So that's why he chose that number. And, his father passed away in his sleep 2009.
22.
Nice way to honor him with that number 47. Here's Addison Russell. Hitting 7th. 0 for 9 with 6 strikeouts on the road trip. Cut on and missed. This ballpark is the second oldest in the National League, third oldest in the majors, behind Fenway Park and Wrigley Field. It opened in 1962. They've done a nice job of keeping it, quote, current. Done some renovations. They're going to go over 3 million in attendance this weekend.
Averaging better than 46,000 per game here at Dodger Stadium.
It's always been known as a pitcher's park. Maybe not as much as it did at one time. And I think one of the small reasons for that is there's a lot less foul territory than there used to be. So they pushed some of the premium seating actually closer to home plate. There's box seats right behind home plate that used to be part of foul territory. Got a wall behind that front section that used to be.
Used to have a lot of foul
play. Yeah.
Excuse me. Used to have a lot of it here.
So that might buy a pitcher an extra out or two during a 6 or 7 inning performance. And they've had good pitchers.
Yeah, they've had good pitchers. They've had a lot of sluggers here over the years. 395 straightaway center is not real big, but the alleys, straightaway left, straightaway right, big out there.
1-2 on the way, and Russell takes it 2-2.
Ball typically carries better here in the daytime than it does at night. Of course, this is new too with this heat. This is atypical from what you get in Southern California, so the ball might be jumping a little bit better here than it normally does.
Late swing just to stay in there for Russell. I should probably explain, there are people who don't. I mentioned a simulated game that Latos threw the other day in Arizona, and what that is. Why don't you describe what a simulated game is?
It's just that, pitcher will work to, when you do it at the big league level, you come out early, before batting practice, early in the afternoon, you get 3-4 of your hitters, and you pitch innings to them, calling balls and strikes, and they'll keep a pitch count. So you don't normally necessarily have to get 3 outs. You'll just go 15 to 20 pitches, say.
Gets by Ellis and allows Bryant to take third. 3-2 meanwhile on Russell.
So you go out there and you face live hitters and you throw 20 pitches. Then you go sit down in the dugout and you hang out over there while they take some live BP off the coach. And you simulate the length of time it would take for your team to hit. And back out you go. So you get used to that up and down that you would have if you're pitching a ball game. And you get your work in, and it's not the same as throwing in the bullpen because you're facing real hitters and you're throwing breaking balls and all the stuff you normally would do.
What were we waiting on? Were the Dodgers trying to figure out if that ball hit Russell or his bat on that wild pitch? Not sure. Well, the infield in, 3-2 on Russell. Here it comes, and we'll do it again. Here's the wild pitch. Looked like it was anywhere close to him or his bat. Pulled to left. In the corner, Crawford is over there, and he makes a catch in foul territory. He could have chosen not to. It'll be a sacrifice fly as Bryant scores, and it's 1-0 Cubs. And Latos, I think, asking the home plate umpire, was it foul when it was caught? In the second inning, you're going to catch the ball. But, boy, late in the game, you might think twice about it.
Absolutely. At this stage of the game, I'm sure Don Mattingly wants his guys just to go ahead and take the out, stay away from a big inning.
So that'll be a sacrifice fly on a foul out for Russell, and Lester fouls away, and that obviously was a huge at bat with the pitcher on deck. John, 1 out of 81 in his major league career.
In a perfect world, this game would end 1-0. And everybody would be scurrying for the record books to find a time when the only run in the ball game came on a foul sacrifice fly.
That was an awkward swing by John. We haven't seen too many of those. 1 and 2. Two and 2.
I saw John turning around and chatting with Chad Fairchild there. A lot of times a hitter will ask an umpire, was that a strike? Because they want to know if they offered that a strike or not. I'm guessing John turned around and said, did that look as bad as it felt?
He has worked it full, 3 and 2. Tommy La Stella is on deck. He walked it.
Yeah, baby.
A couple of pitches in that sequence Latos wanted and didn't get.
Second baseman number 11, Tommy La Stella.
Right over the heart of the plate. Borderline in terms of the height.
Fouled back, so John Lester has taken 2 walks now in his career. Chatting with a former Boston teammate, Adrian Gonzalez. Curve at 76. La Stella making his 3rd start since returning from AAA Iowa, just his 5th start of the season, missing a majority of it with an oblique injury. And he went, and that's the inning. 4th strikeout for Latos, and it's 1-0 Cubs. At WGNTV.com. It's sponsored by Jeff Vukovich, your nationwide insurance agent, serving the area for 37 years. To join the nation, contact Jeff at jeffvuk.com. Nationwide is on your side. 1-0 Cubs on a sacrifice foul fly by Addison Russell. Strike on Justin Turner. .332 hitter in this ballpark as a Dodger. Well placed, 0-2. Turner, a couple of words for Chad Fairchild. You're saying you're Chad Unfairchild right now, sir.
Well, it's knee high on the inside corner. In his last start against the Indians, John got a lot of ground balls. 4 double plays, I believe, were turned behind him in that game against the Indians.
Breaking ball lined and caught by Russell. That's a mistake pitch ahead in the count in terms of the location, and fortunately it was hit at an infielder.
Turner out on the front foot a little bit, but the hands stay back. Strug hang with him. John has gotten outs for the cycle through the first 4 batters. Fly out, a strikeout, a ground out, and a line out. History has been made.
That's the pitching cycle. I like it. Swing and a miss. Fastball at 93. Scott Van Slyke.
Dodger. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say his number's down a little bit this year. And that will be a base hit. That'll help his numbers go up, as you were saying.
Yeah, I was saying that this Dodger club really good against left-handed pitching. When you look at the rate stats, batting average on base, things of that nature. Van Slyke last year was off the charts good against lefties. Had an OPS over 1,000.
There's Carl Crawford. 121 triples. He leads all active players. We've brought up the idea of unbreakable records. Ripken, DiMaggio,
Scully.
Scully, right. I got another one. The career triples record. You know what it is?
Is it Sam Crawford?
It is Sam Crawford, Hall of Famer.
I don't know the number.
The all-time triples leader. 309. Crawford, the only player in Major League history, Sam, not Carl, with at least 300 triples. Ty Cobb had 295. Crawford played from 1899 to 1917, a far different era than today. Played with Cincinnati and Detroit, and 17 times he had at least 10 triples in a season. Cannot imagine that record would ever be broken.
No, not in the modern game. See, now the interesting thing is, back in the day, if the ball bounced into the stands, it would be a home run, back when he was playing. So we had to find a way to keep it in the ballpark.
And he struck him out. Number 2 for John.
Catcher number 17, A.J. Ellis.
We'll bring up the catcher, A.J. Ellis, making his 38th start. He's had some big performances here against the Cubs. 7 games at Dodger Stadium versus the Cubs. 381 with a double, 2 home runs. Low average, low power, but Takes a lot of walks. And strike one called.
He's another one of their guys better against lefties than righties. And despite a .224 batting average, a .357 on base percentage.
And Slick runs. The throw to second is not in time. Dodgers don't run a ton. That's only his third. In their lineup tonight, Jimmy Rollins is their stolen base leader with 9. We didn't see the Indians take advantage at all of the running game on Monday.
No, and surprisingly, especially since John was getting so many outs on the ground and they kept hitting into double plays, but Terry Francona did not have his guys moving. And this time Don Mattingly nudges Scott Van Slyke, and he takes second base.
Two strikes on Ellis. Big lead by Van Slyke at second. He got him. And the inning is over. After 2, it's the Cubs 1 and the Dodgers nothing. Ocean. Cub fans, let's go. Tickets are available for the next homestand, which begins this Monday, August 31st. The Reds are in town, followed by the Diamondbacks. As always, visit Cubs.com to purchase tickets and get the latest game time updates. Working with JD's iPod tonight. A little Katy Perry for you. 1-0 Cubs. They'll bat here in the third. Second time through the order against Latos.
I don't have Katy Perry. Well, I might have Katy Perry somewhere on my phone because somehow I get all my kids' music. Stuff just gets downloaded and shows up.
Decent bet. Ringing double to start the game for Fowler, but he never did reach third as Latos struck out the next 3 as he rolls a breaking ball off the table into the zone. 1-1.
Yeah, so far the Cub hitters can't eliminate anything against Latos. Everything's in play. He's had good command of all of his pitches. Sometimes the guy will have good action on his breaking ball, but he can't find the zone with it. So a hitter will just, if I see spin, I'm just going to disregard it. He can't throw it for a strike and just sit on fastballs. It's not really an option right now the way Latos is commanding the off-speed stuff.
He was throwing upwards of 98 when he was a high school senior. In the dirt.
Both these clubs take a lot of pitches, work counts, draw walks. Tends to push the pitch count up, makes it difficult on a hot night like tonight.
Inside ball 4. His second walk allowed.
12, Kyle Schwarber.
And here comes Schwarber for the second time. Kyle struck out swinging in the first.
Infield shift, outfield straight away here for Schwarber.
Foul tip.
He's been seeing a lot of that lately. Top of the zone fastballs and above the top of the zone.
Takes that heater at 95, and it's 1-1. Schwarber grew up a Reds fan, not too far from Cincinnati, Middletown, Ohio. And the one hitter he studied more than most in high school and then in college was Joey Votto. He gets a chance to face him a bunch of times a year. And we'll see the Reds coming up Monday night at Wrigley Field. That's a curve that didn't curve much. 2-1.
Now, one of the few bad ones he's thrown. Votto's continued to light it up. Got a 450 on base percentage.
Funny, isn't it, when these kids talk about the guys they grew up watching in high school? You're expecting to hear names like George Brett, Cal Ripken, and he drops a Joey Votto on you.
The guys we saw break into the big leagues as kids.
Yeah. Fowler goes. That pitch is hit in the air to left. Dexter never quite got the second, so we'll get back to first in plenty of time as Crawford makes the catch, 1 out.
Great, Chris Coughlin.
Speaking of the Reds, let's look at the Cubs' forward upcoming schedule. Cincinnati really struggling right now, pulling up the rear in the Central Division. Diamondbacks can hit. We'll see them next weekend. Ford, America's best-selling brand, inviting you to go further in our fuel-efficient vehicles. Check out our entire lineup at your Ford store or at localfordstores.com.
Reds in a wild one tonight. Trail the Brewers 9-8 after 6 in Milwaukee.
Easy 2. 6-3 on the double play turn. We go to the bottom of the third. Cubs 1-0 over the Dodgers. Budweiser, still brewed the hard way. This Bud's for you. Great look at the San Gabriel Mountains off in the distance. John Lester back to work. 1-0. The Cubs have the lead. Jose Peraza takes a strike. Third major league start. Brought up yesterday. Yasiel Puig going on the disabled list. Dodgers got him from Atlanta. And the three-team Marlins, Braves, Dodgers deal involving Latos. Peraza still just 21 years old.
Yeah, speed guy, big stolen base numbers in the minor leagues. Hit for a good average, not a lot of power. Play either of the middle infield positions. Does not yield. Boy, he's always trying to make a pitch. You saw it with Ellis when he struck him out over the outside corner last time. Very few mistakes in the middle of the strike zone for John.
So Peraza is aboard. His second hit, 2 out of 7 to start his career. We'll see how aggressive they're going to be. You've got Latos, the pitcher. So will they wait and let Peraza try to steal second and then bunt Latos, or do it right off the bat? We'll find out.
Yeah. Well, you know, we've seen it all year long where teams have been hesitant to try to run on John. They might measure a big lead, but they don't go. And Peraza, with his lack of experience, they may just go ahead and bunt him over here with Latos.
37 steals against Lester, the most versus any pitcher. That includes the one by Van Slyke. There's the bunt right back to Lester. And he'll underhand flip to LaStella covering first. That'll go 1-4. 10th sack bunt by Matt Latos, who's done a nice job in that regard.
John gets on it quickly, has plenty of time to take a couple of steps towards first base and do that little underhand flip that he prefers.
Latos actually has always been a good bunter. 43 career sack bunts. Rollins hit a deep drive out to the warning track in left center in the first inning. 1 for 5 in the series. Rizzo plays way off the line at first. LaStella trying to keep Peraza honest at second. And a called strike. It's not as if John Lester ever throws a pitch at the belt or higher, but he lives in the lower part of the strike zone with just about all of his pitches.
Every now and then he'll intentionally elevate a fastball, but for the most part he's just committed to knees and below.
Now that would be an interesting look for you. You could paint a Cubs logo on one side, whatever station we're on the other side, change it on a nightly basis.
Order one up. Just don't turn your head sideways. You'll block the view of like 6 people.
0-2 runner goes. Called strike 3. So the good news is Lester just struck out Rollins. Peraza reaches third, but there are 2 outs.
Yeah, I think the Dodgers have not played this inning very well at all. At first, giving up the out with the bunt with Peraza running, and then waiting till this point to steal third base. Not much of an advantage gained here. Good pitch by Lester.
And I'm not saying Rollins was upset at Peraza, but I know there are a lot of hitters who don't like that. Right? 2 strikes. Yep. So first major league steal for Peraza, 210 over 5 minor league seasons. And it's Hernandez with a tying run at third and 2 outs.
Crowd him there with a cutter. Lester doesn't spend a lot of time worrying about who's on deck. He's unyielding. He doesn't want to give in regardless of the next matchup. And in this instance, even though Gonzalez has the big resume, he's a left-handed hitter. And as we mentioned earlier, Hernandez here has worn out lefties this year. Just based on those numbers, Gonzalez may be the preferred matchup.
Toward the hole, Russell quickly up with it. Safe. I don't think Rizzo was on the bag. He was not. That's the call made by Pat Holberg. Great effort by Russell. But the Dodgers have tied it up on an infield hit by Kike Hernandez, 1-1.
So at the end of the day, stealing third base does pay off for the Dodgers because Barraza doesn't score from second on this one. Valiant effort by both guys. There's Russell from deep in the hole, popping up, making the throw, and Rizzo doing everything he can to stretch out there and keep his foot on the base, but clearly could not, and we are tied.
So here's Gonzalez. And a huge lead by Hernandez. He looks like he's going to run. Long look by Lester. And Gonzalez requested time.
Let's see if John goes quickly this time. Come set, hesitate just to beat, and then go.
Not running, and outside for a ball.
Not only was he not running, he was actually flinching a little bit as if to go back to the bag.
Dexter Fowler to end the inning. 2 hits and the game tying run. We're tied after 3.
I was hit by something last night in my sleep.
Cubs and Dodgers are tied at 1 as we play the top of the 4th. Great to have you with us on a Saturday night from LA. Latos ready for a 1-0. It's a strike. The home run last night, 26th of the year for Rizzo, and his 10th over the last 28 games. That's that one off his foot. The ground right into the shift. Peraza in shallow right will make the play.
Join Joe Madden and Cub players ringside after the game on September 2nd for an unforgettable night of amateur boxing, great food, and giving back to Chicago's youth. Located at the Ravenswood Event Center, Madden's main event will feature local youth boxers at various skill levels, as well as a special main event bout. For tickets and details, visit CubsCharities.com.
Outside on Bryant, broken bat single to lead off the second. And eventually scored on the Addison Russell sac fly. Said Latos has a unique windup. As you mentioned, pretty tall, jabs the ball behind his back.
Yeah, you wouldn't call it fluid. I would think that would create a little deception for the hitter.
On the hands that time, and hit weakly to short. Rollins gets the hustling Bryant. 2 outs.
Number 47, Miguel Montero.
Latos seeking his first 1-2-3 of the night. Jake Arrieta tomorrow night. He'll look for his 17th win. And lefty Alex Wood, recent acquisition from Atlanta, will pitch for the Dodgers. It'll be a 7 o'clock Chicago time start. And then we're back home, Cincinnati and the Diamondbacks.
Dodgers bringing in reinforcements. They've had to deal with a lot of injuries this year. Oh my, a heck of a stickball pitch. Actually bounced right up into Montero's wheelhouse. This is what you would call a scud. Brandon McCarthy been out all year. Jun Ryu has been out all year. Well, McCarthy made 3 or 4 starts.
Yeah, Ryu had the shoulder, McCarthy, Tommy John. So like a pretty deep, solid rotation when the season started, but those injuries forcing the Dodgers to make some changes. Wood and Latos brought in.
Yeah, they plugged in internally for a while, and then there was some success. Bolsinger pitched well for them for a while. Pitched good against the Cubs in Chicago. They've used the DL 18 times as you look at Don Mattingly, the skipper, and Rick Honeycutt, longtime pitching coach here in LA. Dodger coaching staff could drop some resumes on you. Steve Yeager, Mark McGuire, Davey Lopes, Tim Wallach, John Valentin.
Deep center. Hernandez makes a catch right in front of the warning track. A loud third out. We're going to listen into a little Vince Scully as we move along tonight. 1-1 in the fourth. The best who ever lived. Vince Scully in his 66th season as a Dodger broadcaster. Enjoy.
So Chase Utley has actually been taking some ground balls at third base, but at the same time they don't want to push Utley, so they have Peraza because they don't have Hendrick. So it is that time as we go into September. Of course, there's the other decision the Dodgers have to make, these September call-ups. Will Corey Seager be up? Just around the corner. 1 ball and 1 strike. We have a 1-1 tie, bottom of the fourth. Lester, a little sinker, and behind now 2 balls and 1 strike. For what a gamble the Cubs make on John Lester. I don't mean his ability, that's well known. 2-1 pitch, fouled away. Lester is 31 years old, and he has signed at 31 a 6-year deal for $155 million. In other words, what they're saying, really, he'll be as good a pitcher when he's 37 as he is at 31. Maybe. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Chopper to the hole. There's Russell on it. Right on the money. And we have 1 away. Scott Van Slyke coming up. Single to left field in the 2nd inning. Stole a base on Lester, but stayed at second when Crawford and Ellis struck out. Because I always think when you're talking about somebody like a Lester or a Kershaw, someone with a long contract. Mark Walter, principal owner of the ball club, had a line that resonates: pitchers break. So it's a considerable gamble. That's a strike to Scotty. 0-1. Van Slyke wearing his stolen base. 0-2. Last night, you may remember, Van Slyke finished up the game for Andre Ethier. Went head first on the ground, skidded on the grass into the track, hurt his knees. 0-2. And a drive into right. It is slicing, and Coghlan still can't make the catch. And going into second base, Van Slyke. You would have to say that Coghlan's route was questionable. Jock Peterson leading the applause for Van Slyke. So Coghlan made a straight across run instead of going back on the ball. So instead of he was playing the ball was playing him. So poorly played, and the Dodgers get a big break. Instead of an out, there's a one-out double by Van Slyke.
Great stuff from Vin Scully, and yes, he works alone. He will be back in 2016 and has said that it's probably his final year next season. Quote, realistically was the word he used. So Van Slyke now at second with one out, and the pitch won't be made just yet.
Measuring a very aggressive lead, and Russell well inside him there. So even with that, Van Slyke not intimidated, holding his ground. So Lester decides to step off and reset.
There goes, and Crawford foul, but catcher's interference called on Miguel Montero. So Crawford will reach, and they'll send Van Slyke back to second.
Yeah, this is really interesting how the Dodgers are playing this game. So Van Slyke's got that huge lead. You can tell he's giving every indication he's going to go. So Carl Crawford probably ought to take a pitch and let him steal third base here. I mean, it works out in their favor as Montero, and this is a byproduct of him trying to do everything he can to help shut down the running game. He's trying to be a little extra quick, coming out of his crouch, moving out towards that baseball, and the result is the catcher's interference.
So Crawford will not be charged with an official at bat and give an error to Montero. So first and second, and now Lester will try to get a double play ball off the bat of A.J. Ellis.
He's not a speedy guy and certainly a candidate. So you would think the running game would be in play for Don Mattingly again here with Van Slyke at second and Crawford at first, who's measured a very big lead. Base runners have to, obviously high stress situations for John Lester, and I just marvel how well he's pitched while dealing with this all season long. Whether it's a game where we saw the Milwaukee game, I guess it was a couple starts ago, where they took full advantage, or a game like last time out of Cleveland where he had base runners but they didn't run. He still has to think about it and work with it, and he's pitched very well in spite of it.
Here comes the skipper, Joe Madden. The entire infield will get together.
You can tell by the way Montero reacted, and with John trying to deal with Van Slyke out there, Joe wanted to go out and deliver a message. He wants them to proceed here, how aggressive he wants them to be. And I guess aggressive is not the right word, but maybe more either, hey, we got to step off and make a throw, or let's just pitch. Don't even worry about the base runners. You're down near the bottom of the order. Let's just pitch.
Both runners on the move. Ellis fouls off his foot.
And Slake's getting his sprint work in here tonight. Like Vin's call, he's wearing his stolen base. It's gold, Jerry. It's gold.
2-2 on Ellis. Awkward cut on that curveball, and that's out number 2.
Fifth strikeout for John Lester here tonight. A wave and a miss from Ellis.
Raza 1 for 1 with a steal and a run. He hits it in the air to right. Easy play for Coughlin, and that'll get Lester out of the inning. Dodgers strand a couple. We're tied at 1 after 4.
Bank, the curious bank.
1-1. Lester and Latos, the mound matchup. Cubs got some help in the wild card race earlier with the Giants losing at home. The team that beat them, however, is leading the National League Central, the Cardinals. So the Cubs with a 5-game lead over San Francisco for the final wild card spot, 9 back and in 3rd place in the NL Central. Pirates a 4-3 winner over the Rockies. Jay Happ beat Chris Russin. So right now the Pirates 5.5 ahead of the Cubs for the first wild card position. Ball line into left off the bat of Addison Russell. First pitch swinging. And that'll put Lester in a bunting situation.
Number 34, John Lester.
Perhaps sitting on that curveball, a little get over hook there by Latos, and Addie Russell jumps all over it.
Defensive bunt. Oh, he caught it. Justin Turner with a diving grab and foul ground.
Turner creeping as Lester squares to bunt, and then off he goes as that ball's popped into the air. Beautiful play. You get a good look at it here.
Number 11.
All his momentum coming forward, has to make a little adjustment into foul territory.
So one away, and here's Tommy La Stella.
Tight game here. That could prove to be a very big play. Dodgers thinking that perhaps after the failed sack, Cubs might be thinking about trying to run with Russell. That's not a big part of his game. He's quick, but not particularly fast. He's got quick feet, quick arm, quick hands in all of his actions out there at shortstop. But just in terms of foot speed, that's probably average, I'm guessing.
Decent lead. 1-0 on La Stella. There he goes. That ball hit into center, and it'll send Russell all the way to third. So a hit and run, and the Cubs have him at the corners with one out.
Yeah, it's a good combination to play hit and run with. Again, Russell, not a guy you trust to steal that base, but La Stella, a guy you trust to put the ball in play. And to get on top of that ball and hit it on the ground is most impressive. That's a heck of a job by La Stella. Squirts through the middle of the diamond, and the Cubs go first to third. That thing is shoulder high.
Fowler has doubled and walked. Quick slide step. Late toes with a fastball. It's in off the plate for ball one. Second straight start for Dexter since he missed 2 starting assignments with leg and hand issues. And 1.
It's interesting to contrast the two managers. We've watched Joe Madden all year, and I'm guessing if Joe were in a similar situation right now, he'd have a left-hander up in his bullpen, identifying this as a critical part of this ball game with Schwarber, Coghlan, and Rizzo to follow Fowler here. In the middle of the order, getting their third look at Latos if it comes to pass.
Schwarber on deck.
It does look like somebody's now starting to move around in the Dodger bullpen.
Did he hold? He held up. That's big. 3-2. All made by Greg Gibson down at third. It's, to me, that's an either way, right? About as borderline as it gets.
Flip a coin. Luis Avilan is up in the Dodger bullpen, the lefty acquired from the Braves.
Stella not running, and that time he went.
Like 2 halves equal a whole. And Dexter's trying to make the case I did the same thing. Perhaps he did. It looked like there was a little more going on there. It's almost like the umpire said, well, first time, I'm not going to ring you up. Yeah, there was a little more there.
So it's up to Schwarber. There's Avilan. Dodgers have had some issues in their bullpen.
They're really good at the end. Kenley Jansen, who finished the ball game last night, has been lights out. But their bullpen ERA is down near the bottom of the league.
Two balls, no strikes. Lato's pretty deliberate, especially with men on base. And 2-1.
Saw those numbers against Lato's batting average against first, second, and third time through the order. That line not atypical. Usually third time through, the batting average goes up.
Three and one. 2 hits in the inning. Ogden waits on deck.
Clever 3-1 breaking ball by Latos. Schwarber sitting on a heater, took a big hack. Not a bad idea, though. You got one more to play with.
And a balk. And Latos claiming he was not on the rubber, but the Cubs are going to get the lead here, 2-1. Don Mattingly will come out, and you've got a bunch of Dodgers arguing with a couple of different umpires. They're claiming he wasn't on the rubber. There was nobody over at first base. Gonzalez was playing behind Listella.
Yeah, well, let's see. He's in his normal position. He's in contact with the rubber here. No, that's clearly a balk. That's a balk. He's trying to sell it, but that's clearly a balk. I mean, for that not to be a balk, you would have to make a deliberate step behind the rubber to identify yourself as, okay, I'm off the rubber now. Now I'm an infielder. It was all in one motion. So one run has come home on a foul ball sac fly. Another one here on a balk. The Dodgers scored their run on an infield hit. Umpire's going over just in case anybody of the four saw anything differently.
Mattingly asking for them to go to New York. I don't know if it's even reviewable. We were talking before the game about possible plays that could be added to review. Yeah, Latos. That's a balk.
Yeah. And I'm an anti-balk guy. I think way too many balks are called. I wouldn't mind seeing them revisit the balk rule.
That's kind of the definition of a balk.
Yeah. Not sure why Donnie really pressing his case here. Maybe he's trying to buy time for his reliever. Protest? The other part of it, too, you're not supposed to be able to argue a balk call, are you? So, I don't know, maybe there's something else going on here.
Maybe they're talking about, are you supposed to be able to argue a balk call? Mattingly saying, I'm supposed to be ejected here, but you guys haven't kicked me out yet. So at any rate, it is a balk. Dodger fans will boo, Cub fans will cheer, and it's 2-1. And it's 3-2 on Kyle Schwarber.
And if you're a Cub fan, you're hoping that Latos gets a little mad, tries to overpower him with a fastball, and throws it right down the heart of the plate, and Schwarber hits it 400 feet.
He walked him.
Right fielder, Chris Coughlin.
Do it for Latos. For the third consecutive start for Latos since joining the Dodgers. Doesn't make it through 5.
Cubs have the lead. They'll try to get more with 2 outs here in the 5th. Luis Avilan when we come back.
Ladies and gentlemen, now missing.
Timeless tradition in Chicago, as there is no experience quite like it. Visit Cubs.com/bleachers to buy tickets and learn more about the available spaces. Look at them having a blast out there. Look at those people. Don't need those stinking beach balls.
Luis Avilan, another guy acquired by the Dodgers on that big blockbuster 3-team July 30th trade, involving guys like Latos and Peraza in the Dodger lineup tonight.
Avilan, 59th time he has pitched. Big part of the Braves bullpen over the last 3 or 4 years. Getting a chance here with the Dodgers in this pennant race. He has not been particularly effective against left-handed hitters this year. See if Coghlan can do some damage. Tough night for Chris so far. Strikeout, grounded into a double play. And a bad route in right field, as Vin Scully pointed out.
Run in on a balk. And Coghlan pops one to Gonzalez. Avilan late getting over there, but Gonzalez took it unassisted to end the inning. Cubs have their second lead. Beautiful night here in L.A.
Cubs MasterCard debit card only available at your local Wintrust Community Bank. Go to wintrust.com/Cubs to learn more. Member FDIC.
So Luis Avilan will lead it off after coming in to relieve Matt Latos on the mound. Cubs leading 2-1.
Interesting. No double switch, no pinch hitter here for Avilan. Down a run in the 5th.
So he has 3 career at bats. He's 1 for 3. All those plate appearances coming in 2012 with Atlanta. Estella ranging to his glove side makes the play.
Playing fantasy baseball? MLB.tv serves up real-time highlights and pitch tracking info on your out-of-market fantasy players live or on demand on over 400 devices. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Get MLB.tv today.
Jimmy Rollins recently garnered his 500th career double. He's got 501. And takes ball 1. 88 degrees as we got started. It has cooled off a bit.
Muggier tonight, though. Feels a little tropical for LA.
You're right. Yeah. Fowler glides and makes the catch. So Latos 4 2/3, 2 runs on 4 hits. He walked 3, struck out 5. Hernandez tied the game with an RBI infield hit in the 3rd. Yeah, I'm going to guess if we add up all the games we've seen in our lifetimes, you and I have never seen a game. The first 3 runs scored on a foul sac fly, an infield hit, and then a balk.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
And Schwarber thought about going back, and she only had to move a couple of steps. 2-1 Cubs.
Must be a full moon.
Tweet us your Cubs selfies at hashtag WGN Cubs. Look at that selfie. Tamara Anderson, our associate producer, and John Q. Reynolds, our stage manager here in L.A. We always have to make sure we get him on the show somehow.
It's in his contract.
Especially wearing shorts. And make sure you text Subway to 97999 right now for your chance to win 6 meals from the Simple 6 menu at Subway. Subway, eat fresh. Message and data rates may apply. Avilan to Rizzo. Way out in front. Look out. Chris Coghlan just about got decapitated. Oh, my. Yeah, whatever. Big league ball. There's John.
Good work, John. Yep. Yeah, I like what you're doing there. That's good work. You're going to enhance the broadcast. One of the best in the business. One of the top 30 or 40 people we come across every year.
The 0-1. Another one hit foul. Watch his screamer. I guess it wasn't as close to Chris as I thought, but still.
In the neighborhood. Just obviously not happy with the way his night is going, but this, as we say over and over again, is a game of redemption. Cubs have chased a starting pitcher early again here tonight, but just 2 runs on the board. Wow, that would hit him in the belly button.
Yeah, it's either a hit by pitch, a foul, or a little squibber in play. Comes the wave.
See, here's my problem. LA has a reputation of being kind of a trendy place, right? New things start. How do you explain the wave out here?
I don't know. Maybe it's coming back now. Maybe there's a new wrinkle to it. Well, it looks like
the same old wave.
It looks like the wave, yeah. Peraza makes the play. And Rizzo's retired for the 3rd time. 1 out. Now Chris Bryant singled and grounded to short.
You can see where some grumpy old guy would say, these fans don't deserve a winner. They do the wave, they play with beach balls, they leave the park early. Never catch me saying that. You could hear some grumpy old guy saying that.
I was going to say, that's about as passive aggressive as I've ever heard from you. Just for our viewers, whenever JD says some grumpy old guy might say ... that's what he's really saying.
Speaking of, Tommy's in the house. Hey, looks good, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. Hall of Famer.
It's Tommy, 84-ish, something like that.
Sounds about right. One to Bryant.
87.
And he fouled away.
Tommy is 87.
So he's as old as Vin.
With the continuity they had here, Walter Alston to Tommy Lasorda. What a run. What? Late 50s through middle 90s, yep. Maybe?
Two to Bryant. Montero on deck. So Walter Alston, 1954. Swing and a miss, strike 3. In 1976. And then the next 2 decades, Tommy Lasorda. How many managers since Tommy can you name?
Billy Russell.
Yep.
Jim Tracy.
Yep.
Dusty Baker.
No.
No. He never managed here.
I'll give you Glenn Hoffman. He was an interim guy.
Don Mattingly.
Yeah.
That's easy.
Missing
cheating.
3. Davey Johnson. Grady Little. Joe Torre. So the last 20 years, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different managers. Mattingly in his 5th year. Two and 0. Here it comes. It's up and in on Montero. It's 3-0.
Hit the ball really well last time up. Deep drive to center field that Hernandez ran down. Would not be surprised to see him turn it loose here on 3-0.
He does not. He takes a strike. Back to Avilan. Avilan's faced 4 and sent them all down. Midway in the 6th. 2-1 Cubs. Coming to Wrigley Field for their Jekyll and Hyde tour. Tickets are on sale now at Cubs.com/Zach Brown Band. Do not miss your chance to see this 3-time Grammy-winning band at Wrigley Field. Foo Fighters and Cheap Trick and Company playing at the ballpark tonight.
Billy Joel was just there.
Yeah. Heard it was a great show. Swing and a miss. Strike 1. We're in the bottom of the 6th. Fouled off by Gonzalez.
Just John Lester's 2nd career start here at Dodger Stadium. Pitched here in August of 2013. Allowed just 1 run and 7 in the 3rd innings.
get him to bite on a cutter. It's 1-2. It's Chris Hatcher, right-hander up for LA. Curve outside. Really durable guy, Adrian Gonzalez, going back to 2006, 156 games, 161, 162, 160, 160, 159. Pretty par for the course. He plays just about all of them as he swings and misses for strike 3. Let's go back to 1988. Mazda replay cam.
High fly ball into right field. She is gone.
Kirk Gibson game 1 homer off Dennis Eckersley in the World Series. Mazda, conviction, creativity, courage. This is the Mazda way. Gibson limped around the bases. One of the iconic World Series home runs.
The Dodgers have won 5 World Series since moving out here to LA. 1 in Brooklyn. And the A's were heavily favored in that series.
Moved here in 1958. Talked to Vin about that. And the leadoff man tonight. Swing and a miss. 1-2 to Turner. It'll be quite a time. Giants and Dodgers both moving out west, forging a new sort of rivalry here in California. Just foul to left.
Justin Turner living up to his name there by spinning on that one. And down and in with a breaking ball, and then tried to throw that cutter in on his hands. Tough night to keep the hand dry. Sometimes affects the breaking pitch. I haven't seen any evidence of that here with John tonight. Changeup. Good one. Just stays alive.
Sportsnet Stats put out a tweet that I retweeted. It's kind of fun, regarding Vin Scully. He saw Connie Mack, a longtime manager who was born in 1862. And he now has called a game involving Addison Russell, who was born in 1994. 1862, 1994. That's bridging the gap in generations. Wow.
I will take issue with one thing Vin said when we were eavesdropping on him. He was talking about John Lester's 6-year, $155 million deal. Vin said that the Cubs are banking on John being as good in year 6 of that contract as they are in year 1, and I don't think that's the case. I don't think anybody has a realistic expectation that John at 37 is going to be the pitcher he is at 31. He gets the contract because of what you expect him to do in the first 3 or 4 years of that deal, and the idea is that he's going to be part of a winning run here, hopefully one that ends up with World Series ring on the fingers of a lot of these people. And if you get that and the performance diminishes in the last couple of years of that deal, then you live with it. That's the trade-off.
And the fact that when guys get into his position at his age, sometimes you need to add a year or 2 more than you really would prefer.
Sure.
Strike 3 called on Turner.
Right fielder, Scott Van Slyke.
We talked earlier about his pounding the bottom of the strike zone, and you see a lot of work done down low there.
Bouncer to the aforementioned Russell. And that's it. Dodgers go quietly in the 6th. John Lester's been terrific tonight. He leads by a run. A winner last night. Cubs leading 2-1 here tonight. Chris Hatcher, very interesting story. He's a converted catcher. He made his major league debut as a catcher against the Cubs in 2010. The following year he converted to the mound full time, made his major league pitching debut at Wrigley Field. So he debuted as a catcher and as a pitcher against the Cubs. And he's the first player to catch in the big leagues one year and return the following year as a pitcher since Art Dahl in 1936 for the Boston Braves.
We've seen a number of guys make that transition from catching to pitching, but normally it happens as a minor league player. Very rarely are they good enough to get to the big leagues as a catcher and then find out that's not going to pan out, and they make the move to the mound.
Fastball gets him 97, and a paint job on the outside corner to get Russell.
pitcher, John Lester.
Life on that heater. It was off the corner. Russell got rung up on a pitch that was off the plate, but still a quality pitch by Hatcher. First year with the Dodgers after 4 with the Marlins. Parts of 4 seasons anyway. That's pretty firm there. Consistently 97 here tonight. If so inclined, he also has a slider and a changeup.
J.P. Howell, a lefty. Hatcher's missed time 2 months, in fact, with an oblique sprain. Lester swung at it. He's out.
Second baseman, Tommy La Stella.
What is it with all the oblique strains? Feels like that's been the injury of the year.
Yeah, well, the last few years, right? Seems like there's been a lot of those.
I think La Stella knows about that. Jorge Soler is on the DL. With a strained oblique. Neil Ramirez, an abdominal. It's a core muscle injury.
Was it John Kruk that said you can't pull fat? That was his philosophy.
Yeah, that was Krucky or Rod Beck, somebody back in the 90s, I think. See John Kruk tomorrow. I'll ask him. Only thing there is if he didn't say it, it's kind of awkward. Ball 4. Second time on for La Stella.
The Cubs are proud to salute the men and women of the United States Armed Forces this Monday. Show your support by buying tickets to the Cubs special events page. Tickets will be in the terrace reserved outfield. Each ticket includes a special Cubs Armed Forces baseball cap. Visit Cubs.com/special events.
2-out walk, and that gives Fowler an opportunity. And he takes a strike.
A modest lead by La Stella. Really a base stealer. 2 strikes here on Fowler, though. They may decide to gamble.
Hatcher has a sign. He'll quickly fire over to first. Cubs have the lead because of a balk by Matt Latos. Spun to throw to first, and Gonzalez was playing behind the runner, so Matt did not follow through on the throw. And that allowed Russell to score. Cubs lead 2-1. That was in the 5th. Stella takes off on a 1-2, pitches low. The throw there gets into center, and Stella's going to hang there with just a steal. Probably could have made third had he noticed right off the bat that that ball had gotten past.
Big high leg kick by Hatcher certainly helps the cause. The one-hop throw not handled by Rollins. By the time Stella finds the baseball, no opportunity to advance. Wouldn't want to be too risky there with 2 outs.
Time for a speed replay brought to you by Xfinity. This is why the Cubs lead. 1st and 3rd. Latos, his foot in front of the rubber, and he claimed he was off the rubber, but it was all one motion.
Yeah. Clearly a balk. John Madden came out and argued, and they talked about it for a long time. It's the right call.
Xfinity, your home for the most live sports. 2-2 to Fowler outside. Schwarber on deck. Inside, he walked him. 3rd time Fowler is reached.
The fielder, number 12, Kyle Schwarber.
J.P. Howell time, I would think. This time looks like we're going to get a double switch.
So while Don Mattingly and Chad Fairchild sorted out, we'll take a break. Cubs with 2 on, 2 down in the 7th, leading by a run. Left-hander J.P. Howell looks over on the mound.
Howell, the veteran left-hander, having a very nice year, 1.47 ERA as he works for the 51st time. Gets a lot of outs on the ground. Sinker, curveball. Not a high velocity guy, but knows how to pitch.
Joe Madden used to rely on quite a bit in Tampa Bay. Two on, 2 down, and Schwarber takes a strike. Lester with a 2-1 lead, hoping his teammates can extend that cushion here. 2-1 on Schwarber.
Tough to win one-run games on the road. Dodgers have been really good here in their home ballpark.
Born in Modesto, California. To Texas and USC, and he strikes out Schwarber to end the inning. So they'll stretch here in LA. The Cubs lead the Dodgers. It's 2-1. Band's got a future. We call them the Beach Boys.
I don't know if that seam head guy there is more or less creepy with Oral Hershiser on top of his head. Crawford not the threat he used to be in terms of the speed game, but you got to believe if he gets on base, he's going to be looking to run.
Justin Grimm. As Lester will make his 80th pitch of the night on an 0-2 to Crawford. And it's 1-2. Take 2-2. Line shot, base hit left field. So Crawford, tying run, is aboard. So he'll hand his elbow pad to Davey Lopes and exchange it. I believe a wrist finger guard to protect that left hand.
Now we'll see how Don Mattingly chooses to play it here with the running game down near the bottom of the batting order. One of the few pitches John has gotten up here tonight. That fastball middle up for Crawford.
Time called at the plate. Crawford used to be a premier stolen base artist. Led the American League 4 times in a 5-year span with at least 50 steals. He stole 60 in 2009. This year he has 3 in 43 games.
Might have been the fastest guy in the game back in the day, right?
Yep. There he goes. Montero up with it. And Estella never was able to apply the tag. So Crawford, who spent almost 3 months on the DL with a strained oblique of his own, back and healthy and in scoring position now with nobody out.
You know, and he didn't have a real big lead, and he didn't get a great jump.
Ball hit him right in the chest.
Ellis, Peraza follows Ellis, and then Ethier, who came in the double switch, is in the 9th spot in the batting order.
JD, you referenced this earlier, and Crawford, as you said, didn't get a big lead, didn't get a big jump. Montero's probably rushing his throws here, thinking guys are going to get big leads and jumps, right? It's hard not to, isn't it?
Yeah.
In other words, that has to affect your accuracy.
Right. That's what's been so impressive about David Ross and his throwing back there. Because I would guess the tendency would want to be to try to do things too quickly and get out of rhythm and have bad mechanics and not be accurate. Ellis taking a very right side approach here with these swings, trying to guide that ball to the right side to advance Crawford.
Oh-2 to Ellis. Fouled away. Let's go back to the Crawford steal. As you see Montero, it looked like he set up okay. Just did not get enough on that throw. It's a base hit. Crawford throws at first. He's going to stop at third with nobody out. Line drives as a runner. You're supposed to freeze on those balls. So the Dodgers now in pretty good shape.
You can see throughout that at bat, Ellis was trying to hit the ball to the right side. So not only does he advance Crawford, but he gets himself a base hit by lining this ball into shallow right. Situation with nobody out, if you're the base runner, you have to be convinced the ball's going to get down. You can't afford to get doubled off.
rookie Peraza, 21 years old, playing second base tonight. Cubs will concede the tying run to try to turn two. Peraza, as we mentioned, runs really well. He shows bunt. And the pitch is a ball, 1-0.
Ron Renicky now having a chat with Peraza. He was in the ear of Ellis during his at-bat.
Big moment in this ball game. Cubs clinging to a 2-1 lead. Swing and a miss. He was late on a fastball at 93.
Talk about it time and time again. The challenge for a young player in this situation: control the breathing and the heartbeat. Don't let the moment get the best of you. Very indecisive swing by Peraza there as he's up against the veteran Lester. Now he's got to be thinking punch out.
Yeah, that was a very defensive hack. Andre Ethier on deck. Well, it looks like a two-strike swing and it's 1-1. Here it is. 2-2.
Peraza singled his first time up. He has scored the Dodgers run here tonight. He had a breaking ball or maybe a backdoor cutter, lifted it into left for a base hit.
Lined out in the right center. Here comes Crawford. This sliding play by Coghlan will keep Ellis from scoring. It's a double for the rookie Peraza. And we're tied. That's his first major league RBI.
Well, given the nature of that earlier swing and just the way he looked in the box, you didn't really see that coming, did you?
Nope.
Went away to them with the fastball again. And again, it was up a little bit.
Now he's got to bring the infield in. Nobody out. Tie ball game. Second and third. A lot of firsts here for Peraza in this ball game. First career run, stolen base, double, RBI. Just came into the game to play right. That's a base hit. One run is in. Ellis, Peraza right behind him. And the Dodgers have put up a 3 spot here in the 7th to take a 4-2 lead. Just like that, John Lester's night is done. 4 batters, 4 hits, turning a 2-1 lead into a 4-2 deficit. Justin Grimm will enter the game when we come back. 6 through 9. Crawford, Ellis, Peraza, and Ethier, who's obviously not a 9-hitter, but man, single, double, single, stolen base in the middle of that, and all of a sudden it's 4-2 Dodgers.
Yeah, maybe this, the heat is starting to get to John a little fatigue, starting to elevate a little bit. Good work by these Dodger hitters, though. 3 going the other way. Ethier going right up the middle. I think the other piece of it, too, is when you look at the Dodger bench with Utley and Peterson over there, Grandal, the switch hitter. Joe didn't want to make an early move to the right-handed pitcher. The lefties in the bullpen have been scuffling lately. So just one of those managers, conundrums where do I go with my starter, my horse who may be fatiguing a little bit, or do I go back and try to pull one of those lefties out of the bullpen that's been scuffling? Where do you push your chips? Who do you trust in that situation?
Curveball. Rollins able to hold up on his swing, batting left-handed for the first time tonight.
Part of what has made Rollins so good these many years is that he's been really good from both sides of the plate. Pretty much the same guy, career-wise. Not so much this year. He's been better as a right-handed hitter this year.
Yeah, I was just looking up those career splits. His OPS left-handed 4 points better than right-handed. That's it. Actually, 6 points difference. I think he had a couple of right-handed at bats against knuckleballers. But yeah, pretty much the same. Deep drive. Coughlin in right center makes the catch. Ethier tried to get back to tag when he realized it was going to be caught, but then it was too late. 1 out for Hernandez.
Center fielder number 14, PK Hernandez.
So kind of amazing, isn't it, that we may not see Jock Peterson all weekend. And if at all, maybe just off the bench. Rookie of the Year candidate in the first half. At one time, you'd have to probably say he was the leading candidate. Made the All-Star team. Actually started in the All-Star game. He has continued to take walks, but is not hitting for average. That one is squeaked into right, and a hit and run, and Ethier all the way to third. Well, Hernandez, one of the reasons Peterson is not playing much right now. Everything Hernandez swings at seems to fall in. Peterson's batting average has gone down every month this season. The slash line he's put up in August: 114, 403, 273. I've never seen anything like it.
Crazy. Taking all those walks, but I think 2 out of his last 29 or something like that.
Gonzalez fouls.
Cubs have a fighting chance here, down 2 with 6 outs to play with. Clearly can't afford to give up much more. So this is a big at bat, big confrontation for Grimm.
ball hit hard. Russell can't get it. Ethier is in. 5-2.
What a job these Dodger hitters have done. Not being too greedy, just hitting the ball where it's pitched. Another off-field hit. This time it's an RBI single for Gonzalez.
Johnson up. Well, the Cubs continue to struggle scoring runs. Lester had a lead 2-1 going into this inning before things kind of fell apart. 4 runs for the Dodgers. If the Cubs cannot come back here in the final 2 innings, it would be their 4th straight loss. They have not lost 4 in a row since late June.
Yeah, the final 2 of that 4-game set. With the Dodgers part of that mix.
They weren't scoring runs then either. They had a 5-game losing streak during which they scored 6 runs total. The irony of this series, JD, is that the Dodgers have not hit the ball out of the ballpark. It's a team that relies very heavily on the home run.
Better than 47% of their runs coming on home runs this year.
1-2 to Turner. In the dirt, 2 balls, 2 strikes.
The nature of this sport, hitters run hot and cold. Talked about the potential carryover effect when you run into some really good pitching. Does the guys start to press because of that and have subpar at bats for a stretch after facing really good pitching? Could be some merit to that.
Runners move on the 3-2, and they're going to have to head back. Infield fly rule in effect. Rizzo's got it. So 2 outs. And here comes Chase Utley, who last night made his home debut with the Dodgers.
Pitching for the Dodgers, number 26, Chase Utley.
1 for 3 in game 1. RBI triple, a walk, and a run.
Yeah, it was deja vu last night. Rollins got on and Utley drove him home.
currently the 9th Dodger to bat here in the 7th. They have plated 4 to take a 5-2 lead. Ground ball. Stella leaves his feet, and from his knees he makes the play, and that will finally end a very damaging bottom of the 7th. It is now 5-2 Dodgers. Six plus, and actually went into the bottom of the 7th with a lead. Charged with 4 runs in the 7th, as the Dodgers now lead 5-2. Jose Peraza, the young rookie, has had a big night. Andre Ethier did not start the game, but big 2-run single for him in that 7th inning. Honda Dream Garage sales event now at your Honda dealer. Jim Johnson now working on the mound. Guess where they got him? Another guy acquired in that July 30th deal from Atlanta. 95 with some sinking action for a strike to Coughlin.
Johnson had 9 saves with the Braves. He's picked up 1 here with the Dodgers. 50 saves in back-to-back seasons with the Orioles in 2012-13.
Foul pop-up. And a few rows back. 1-2. Solidly struck. And whacked into center. Leadoff single, Chris Coughlin.
Maybe the start of something. 1 out of 4 for Chris tonight.
First baseman number 44, Anthony Rizzo.
seen Avilan, Hatcher, Howell, now Johnson. Kenley Jansen is the closer. He worked last night. Picked up his 26th save.
There are a lot of people in the ballpark here tonight. 51,697. The paid crowd, it has thinned a little bit, as it tends to do here. But they have now gone over 3 million fans 19 times in the last 20 seasons and 29 times in franchise history. They're averaging over 46.8, leading the majors. The Cubs are the best road draw. San Francisco #2.
We see a lot of Cub fans everywhere we go. There was a big group gathered by the team bus last night, yelling and screaming, making a bunch of noise for the guys as they got on the bus to head back to the hotel.
So this game was started by Matt Latos. He's 6'6", 244. Seen Chris Hatcher, solid 6'1", 200. Jim Johnson, 6'6", 240. They've got a closer who's 6'5", 265. He struck him out swinging. Rizzo retired.
Punch outs, couple ground balls to second tonight for Anthony. Now 3 out of 20 on the road trip. It was unrealistic to expect the Cubs to continue to win at the pace they were winning at. It was fun to watch while they did it. You knew they were going to run into some hot teams from frontline pitching. The question is just how do you respond to it? The beauty of it is they built themselves a nice cushion through that good run. Well, there's a good answer right there, Mr. Arrieta. He'll pitch tomorrow.
Noise. Did that hit the?
Yeah, it must hit that elbow guard.
Elbow pad, yeah.
Catcher number 47, Miguel Montero.
Two-seamer. The top of that pad, back of the elbow.
Well, that will bring up the tying run. So you are 6'4",
6'5" on a good day.
6'5" on a good day. Generally, how many guys on the pitching staff you were a part of were taller than you?
Not many. We had a lot in the vicinity. You know, a lot of 6'2" to 6'5" guys.
Because arguably you would be about the 6th or 7th or 8th tallest Dodger pitcher. So, I mean. And this is not unique to them.
Yeah, no. Yeah, like every night it's like, and here comes the big right-hander. Well, everybody's got 3 or 4 big right-handers coming out of that bullpen with 95 to 98 mile an hour fastballs.
Hamill 6'6", 225. Richards 6'5", 240. Lester 6'4", 240.
Arrieta.
Yep. Another hit by pitch. That one bounced up there and hit Montero. And the Cubs have the bases loaded for Addison Russell.
Cubs fans starting to stir it up here, and the Dodger fans a little anxious.
Shortstop, number 22, Addison Russell.
Matt Caesar's going to pinch run for Montero. So that means Kyle Schwarber will have to catch the bottom of this inning.
Number 41, Matt Caesar.
This is the kind of move you make if you're Joe Madden and you're trailing.
Honeycutt, the pitching coach, about to chat with Johnson. Juan Nicasio up in the Dodger bullpen. Russell has power. This is a ballpark, big gaps. Going to yield some extra base hits, either in the corners or in the gaps. So you take advantage of Caesar's speed, put him at first base. Double could tie this ball game.
Starlin Castro has a bat on deck. See bottom right of your screen. Ball one.
Johnson, good movement on his two-seam fastball, but I tell you what, if that stays in or third, Matty Russell, he's certainly capable of hitting that ball deep to left field.
Russell and Strope up in the Cubs bullpen.
Turner parked on the line at third.
1-2.
Staying in there.
Well, this 2-strike count has worked out okay for the Cubs here lately. Just missed. He hit Bryant and Montero on 2-strike pitches to load the bases.
This is a commitment to inside fastballs, isn't it? My goodness. One after another. Do they feel like they've opened up the outside part of the plate a little bit? He did. He made a pitch. Addison Russell either has a very keen eye or lucky or a combination of both, and it was off the corner according to our pitch tracks.
Coghlan third, Bryant second, Caesar first, and a 3-2 on its way. Bounce to short. They get one. They get two. Rollins and Peraza team up and get the Dodgers out of the inning.
Cubs alumni and fans of the Big Ten. The Salute to Big Ten ticket package includes a Budweiser Bleachers ticket and a special edition Cubs beanie in your favorite Big Ten school's colors. Visit Cubs.com/special events.
So Caesar, after pinch running for Montero, will stay in and play left. That puts Schwarber back at the plate. He studies the scouting report. Now working with James Russell. A huge double play turn by the Dodgers to get out of the 8th.
Russell had a good at bat, and it looked like he had a pretty good pitch there. Just didn't do a whole lot with it.
Crawford, who started the big rally in the 7th, singled, stole a base, scored the tying run, and he leads off the bottom of the 8th. Towering fly ball, pretty deep, but Fowler underneath.
Jansen, big horse, and that's going to do it for Russell.
A 1 and out as Russell does his job. We'll be back to Los Angeles in a moment. Another big guy in the bullpen, 6'3", 260.
Those are his numbers since joining the Cubs. The end of July, 12 times he has pitched. He has a 5.59 ERA. Third outing on the road trip for him. Worked twice in San Francisco, back-to-back days. In the opener of that series, he allowed 3 runs on 2 hits and 2/3 of an inning. Once again, the Cubs won 8-5, and then next day, 2/3 scoreless. He can deliver the mail. Upper 90s heater.
Big hit by Ellis in the 7th. And Dahl likely gets the start tomorrow night back of the plate against Jake Arrieta. And a base hit to right. So Ellis going the other way a couple of times.
After not doing a whole lot of hitting the last 2 innings, the Dodger hitters have put on a bit of a clinic here.
It is a team game. And you can pay a lot of guys a lot of money, and the Dodgers have done that. Sometimes you need big performances from guys like Peraza. Justin Turner's been terrific. Hernandez, we mentioned, grabbing a lot of time in center. And goes for the Cubs. Can't rely on just the same guys every night. We'll get only one.
Matt Peraza, a very speedy individual, able to beat that at first base. And what you don't want Hunter to do is try to be too fast here and make an errant throw. Kid can really scoot, though. Huh? I mean, it looked like a double play when he hit it.
Royals beat the Rays 6-3. Chris Medlin 3-0 for Kansas City.
He becomes an intriguing option for them.
Nationals a 5-1 winner over Miami. So with the Mets losing, the Nationals now 5.5 back in the East. Runner goes, throw to second. Not in time. Peraza's got his second steal of the night.
Peraza gives this Dodger club a little different look. Joe Madden and Davey Martinez taking a look. They're not going to challenge. But this Dodger team dead last in stolen bases, but he's one guy certainly capable of making it happen out there. Or just a little bit on the shortstop side.
He walked him.
Peraza had more steals in the minor leagues this year than the entire Dodger team has coming into play here tonight.
Top of the zone strike, 1-1. So it looks like Jansen, if the score remains the same, if the Dodgers add on Juan Nicasio.
Rollins 0 for 4 tonight. He's hit the ball in the air 3 times, twice really hit it hard. Couple of near misses for him. Cubs will not lose ground to the Giants, even if they don't come back here tonight. Giants were blanked by the Cardinals 6-0 earlier today.
Brown Rizzo will get it. And Hunter takes the toss to end the inning. 5-2 LA as we go to the ninth.
Let's go. Don't miss your chance to catch the best matchups in baseball. Reserve your place in line for history in the making. Join the season ticket holder waiting list. It's easy and free to register. For details, visit Cubs.com/waiting list.
Kenley Jansen pitched the ninth inning last night and went 1-2-3 with a strikeout. And he faces pinch hitter Starlin Castro.
Talked earlier about Chris Hatcher being a converted catcher. Same for Jansen.
That cutter deposited into center.
Cubs made noise in the 8th. They threatened, had the bases loaded before the Dodgers wiggled out of it with a double play. So Jim Johnson records a scoreless inning, but it was not particularly sharp.
Pitchers of record: Howell and Lester. Now Estella. Joe's bunt takes a strike. Do not think he was going to give himself up, which would not have been a smart play. He's just
a look at one, I think.
Mike Fiers with the encore to his no-hitter in his last start. Picked up a 4-1 win at Minnesota. So the Astros a winner on this Saturday. Wild card contenders, the Orioles and the Rangers matching up. Texas a 4-3 winner in Arlington. Rangers holding down the second wild card spot so far in the American League. Yankees the first. Estella strikes out looking. It's the first out here in the ninth.
Center fielder number 24, Dexter Fowler.
Yankees also won 3-1 in Atlanta. Off the plate inside. The ball game, however, overshadowed by a tragedy. A fan fell from the upper deck at Turner Field and died. Pronounced dead at Grady Memorial Hospital. According to police, the fan was in his early 60s, and it happened in the 7th inning. That is horrible. 2-0 on Fowler. Cubs need another base runner to get the tying run to the plate. They'll get one, and that'll be it. Rollins will not even make a relay throw. So 2 outs. And we'll bring up Kyle Schwarber.
Fielder number 12, Kyle Schwarber.
Well, you said at the beginning of this road trip, if you can, at bare minimum, take one in San Francisco, win one here, with a nice pad to their wild card lead, you wouldn't feel awful about it. And then you also said after the Cubs won the first game of the road trip, you do get greedy. So now you might be back in that same situation we talked about starting the trip. Fowler will take second, no throw, no steal. 1 strike on Schwarber.
You knew coming into this trip it wasn't going to be easy. You were going to see some really good pitching. You were playing 2 good clubs. A Dodger team that has been really good here at home. Tonight, this game clearly a winnable game. Things just went awry there in the 7th. The Cubs missed some opportunities early. throws that cut fastball, likes to throw it up in the zone. He is giving up a few home run balls. He's allowed 5 long ones in 36 innings.
Coughlin represents the tying run. He's on deck. Schwarber's charge here is to get him to the plate. Fly ball to right. Ethier is there, and the Dodgers have taken the first 2. A comeback win tonight as they pick up 4 in the 7th inning and beat the Cubs 5-2.
The Cubs have not let many late leads get away, and obviously they did here tonight. Boy, just a great job by those Dodger hitters in the 7th. Maybe Lester starting to fatigue a little bit, started to leave some fastballs up. And just a good, solid approach. They had 6 hits in that 4-run 7th inning, and a lot of it just pinging the ball the other way.
Stay with us. We'll wrap it up from Dodger Stadium in a moment.